Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sip and Talk. You ever just be chilling, maybe petting your dog, and a totally random question just hits you?
Oh yeah, it happens all the time. Where did your brain go this time?
Well, I was with Buster, my dog. He's basically a walking furball generator right now, shedding like crazy. And I suddenly thought, wait, do animals get cancer like humans do?
Ah, okay. Yeah.
It sounds maybe simple.
Yeah.
But it really got me thinking.
It does sound simple, but it actually opens up some pretty deep biological questions.
Found some stuff on Wikipedia, some articles from Hello.
Wait, the reading list.
Right. So what we're going to try and figure out today is, what actually is cancer? Is it just a people problem? And I even saw this kind of, wild idea. Do cancer cells sort of have their own will to survive?
Okay, that's a fascinating angle.
What exactly is cancer?
Okay, so cancer isn't really just one single thing. It's more of a general term for lots of different malignant tumors.
Malignant. Okay, so that's different from benign, right?
Exactly. That's the key distinction. Benign tumors grow, but they don't invade. Malignant tumors or cancers, well, their cells behave very differently. They basically ignore the body's normal signals about growing and dividing.
They just go rogue.
Pretty much. They multiply without control, often really, really fast. And crucially, they can invade the tissues around them.
Invade? Like push into other stuff?
Yeah, they erode and destroy nearby tissues. And even worse, they can break off and travel to completely different parts of the body to start new tumors. That's metastasis.
Okay, that's the scary part, the spreading.
It is. And the cells themselves often look, immature or undifferentiated. They haven't really developed into the specific cell type they were supposed to be. And if that whole process isn't checked somehow, it can ultimately be fatal.
Wow. And the sources mentioned the symptoms are all over the place, not just like a lump.
Right. You can get local symptoms like pressure if a tumor is pressing on something or blockages. But you can also get systemic symptoms, things affecting the whole body.
Like what?
Like unexplained anemia, fever, significant weight loss when you're not trying, night sweats, getting infections easily, and eventually something called cachexia, which is severe weakness and body wasting.
Man, that sounds rough. So it all comes down to cells just dividing like crazy.
Fundamentally, yes. It's a breakdown in the body's very precise control system for cell division. They just start proliferating abnormally and invading places they shouldn't be.
But, like you said, not every weird growth is cancer.
Definitely not. Benign tumors grow abnormally too. Maybe they cause pressure, but they lack that ability to invade or metastasize. They stay contained.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
So finding a new bump doesn't automatically mean the worst. But the articles did list some, warning signs.
They did. Things like a new lump, any unusual bleeding, a cough that just hangs around forever, losing weight without explanation, or significant changes in bowel habits.
Stuff you should probably get checked out by a doctor, basically.
Absolutely. But it's also true that those symptoms can be caused by many other less serious conditions. So it's about awareness, not panic.
Gotcha. And I saw there are over 100 types of cancer just in humans.
Yeah, it's a vast number. It really shows how complex this is.
So where did the word cancer even come from?
Interesting bit of history there. It actually comes from the Greek word karkinos.
Karkinos, what's that mean?
It means crab.
Crab. Why crab?
Well, it's thought that Hippocrates, the ancient Greek physician, used the term because some tumors with the swollen veins or extensions growing outwards from a central mass kind of resembled the shape of a crab digging into the sand.
Whoa, that's vivid. So even back then, they recognized that spreading invasive quality.
It seems so. And today, we classify cancers mainly based on the type of cell or tissue they originate from.
Okay, how does that work?
There are a few main categories. You have epithelial cells, which line our organs and skin, mesenchymal cells, which make up connective tissues like bone and muscle, blood stem cells, and neuroepithelial cells in the nervous system.
Epithelial, isn't that where most common cancers start?
Exactly right. The vast majority of human cancers, things like breast, prostate, lung, colon cancer, they arise from epithelial cells. We call these carcinomas.
Carcinomas, okay, I've heard that term. So that means it started in a lining somewhere.
Generally, yes. Then you have sarcomas, which develop from those mesenchymal or connective tissues.
Like bone cancer.
Right, or muscle. Then there are lymphomas and leukemias, which originate in the cells of the immune system or blood-forming cells in the bone marrow.
Okay.
And there are others too, like mesothelioma, gliomas, which are brain cancers, germ cell tumors, even tumors related to the placenta. So you have this hierarchy tumor, which can be benign or malignant. Malignant tumors are cancer. And then cancer can be a carcinoma, sarcoma, lymphoma, and so on.
Okay, that framework helps. So, back to Buster and my original question. Do animals get cancer? It sounds like, based on the cell stuff, they probably can, right?
Logically, yes. Cancer is fundamentally a disease of cells losing growth control. Since animals are also made of cells that divide and are subject to mutations.
And they should be vulnerable, too.
Precisely. The underlying biological machinery that can go wrong exists in animals as well.
And I did read about one specific example, Sticker sarcoma in dogs. It sounded really strange, almost like it's contagious.
Ah, yes. Canine transmissible venereal tumor, or CTVT. It is a fascinating and unusual case. The cancer cells themselves are actually transferred between dogs, usually during mating. It's one of only a few known naturally occurring transmissible cancers.
So the cancer cells jump, not just a virus causing it.
Correct. The cells themselves are the infectious agent. It really underscores that cancer isn't exclusively a human problem, and the fact that places like Yale are developing cancer vaccines for dogs.
Right, I saw that mentioned.
That tells you it's a significant issue in veterinary medicine, and it also suggests we can learn things from animal cancers that might even help us understand human cancers better because there are shared mechanisms.
That makes total sense. If you're investing in a vaccine, it must be common enough to warrant it. So why are epithelial cells, the carcinomas, so common in humans? You said most cancers start there.
That's a great question. Think about where epithelial cells are found. They line surfaces, your skin, your gut, your airways.
Places that are exposed to
stuff. Exactly. They're constantly interacting with the environment, with substances we ingest or inhale, with mechanical stress. Because of this wear and tear, these tissues need constant renewal. The cells divide frequently to replace lost or damaged ones.
Okay. More dividing means more chances for mistakes.
Precisely. Every time a cell divides, there's a tiny chance of an error, a mutation, occurring when the DNA is copied. The more cell division happens in a tissue, the higher the cumulative risk of mutations that could eventually lead to cancer.
So it's like playing the lottery, but a really bad lottery. The more tickets you buy, cell divisions, the higher your chance of winning a mutation.
That's a decent analogy. It's why tissues with high cell turnover rates are often more prone to developing cancer. It all comes back to changes in the genes.
Right. The sources kept mentioning genes, proto-oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes.
Yes. Those are the two main players in controlling cell growth. You can think of proto-oncogenes as the gas pedal for cell growth and division.
Go, go, go.
Right. And tumor suppressor genes are the brakes. They slow down division, repair DNA mistakes, or tell cells when to die if they're damaged beyond repair.
So cancer happens when the gas pedal gets stuck down or the brakes fail. Or both.
Exactly. Mutations can turn a normal proto-oncogene into an overactive oncogene-stuck gas pedal, or mutations can disable a tumor suppressor gene brake failure. Either way, you lose control.
And there was one specific brake gene mentioned a lot, P53.
P53. It's often called the guardian of the genome. It's a critical tumor suppressor. It senses DNA damage and can halt cell division to allow for repairs, or if the damage is too severe, it triggers apoptosis.
Apoptosis, it's programmed cell death, right? Like a self-destruct button.
Correct. It's a crucial safety mechanism to eliminate potentially dangerous cells. The striking thing is that the P53 gene is found to be mutated or inactivated in something like half of all human cancers.
Half. Wow. That really highlights how important it is.
Absolutely. And it's not just P53. Other genetic changes contribute too, like activating telomerase.
Yeah, what does that do? Something about immortality.
Sort of. Normal cells can only divide a certain number of times before their telomeres' protective caps on the ends of chromosomes get too short, signaling them to stop. Cancer cells often switch on telomerase, an enzyme that rebuilds those telomeres, allowing them to divide essentially forever.
So they bypass the normal retirement plan for cells.
You could put it that way. Plus, other mutations help them invade tissues, metastasize, and trigger angiogenesis.
Angiogenesis.
Okay.
New blood vessels.
Yes. They need to trick the body into growing new blood vessels to supply the tumor with nutrients and oxygen so it can keep growing. It's quite insidious.
So the sources listed a whole bunch of bad habits of these cancer cells.
They did. Resisting cell death, apoptosis, growing without limits, making their own growth signals, ignoring stop signals, multiplying like crazy, becoming less specialized, losing contact inhibition.
What's contact inhibition?
Normal cells usually stop dividing when they bump up against each other. Cancer cells often lose this. They just pile up. Plus, invasiveness, metastasis, angiogenesis. It's a whole suite of acquired abilities that make them malignant.
Rogue cells. Really seems like the right description. Okay, so we have a clearer picture of the biology, and yes, animals get it too. Now, that second idea we mentioned, maybe cancer cells just don't want to die. Is there something to that?
It's a really interesting, almost philosophical way to frame it, but it connects to something very basic in biology, the drive to survive. Every living organism, right down to a single cell, has mechanisms and, you could argue, an inherent tendency to persist, to replicate, to avoid destruction.
Yeah, even like bacteria swimming away from poison. It's fundamental.
Exactly. So could the uncontrolled growth of cancer be seen as that fundamental drive, just gone haywire, an extreme, unregulated manifestation of the will to live and replicate?
So they're not necessarily evil, just hyper-survivalist, taking that instinct way too far.
That's one perspective. Normal cells have programmed death, apoptosis, as a control. Cancer cells have essentially figured out ways to disable that program. They find loopholes to avoid death.
Loopholes for immortality, like with the telomerase thing.
Right. And if you think about us, humans, we generally want to live to avoid death. It's a powerful instinct. Perhaps looking at cancer cells through that lens as entities exhibiting a distorted cellular version of that same basic drive gives us a different way to think about them.
Instead of just invaders or like rebels fighting against the programmed end.
It's definitely food for thought. When you look at those hallmarks of cancer, we discussed evading apoptosis, limitless replication, they strongly align with this idea of an overwhelming survival imperative, even though it's ultimately destructive to the host organism.
It is kind of mind-bending. Our own cells, with a will to live that goes rogue.
Okay, wow. Let's maybe pull back from the existential brink for a sec and touch on the practical stuff from the sources. Prevention. What can people actually do?
Right, the practical side. The sources consistently highlight several key prevention strategies. Number one, unsurprisingly, is don't smoke. Quitting smoking is huge.
Always number one. What else?
Limiting alcohol consumption is important too. Diet makes a big difference. Lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains. Cutting back on red meat and processed meats is generally recommended.
The healthy stuff.
Pretty much. Maintaining a healthy weight through diet and regular exercise is also key. Protecting your skin from excessive sun exposure helps prevent skin cancer.
Sunscreen, hats, common sense. Yep. And vaccinations. Getting vaccinated against HPV and hepatitis B can prevent cancers associated with those viruses.
That's huge, that vaccines can prevent some cancers. Okay, so prevention is step one. What about finding it early if it does happen? Screening.
Early detection is critical for improving outcomes. Regular screenings are recommended for certain cancers, things like mammograms for breast cancer, colonoscopies for colorectal cancer, Pap smears for cervical cancer.
And lung scans for smokers.
Yes, low-dose CT scans are sometimes recommended for people with a heavy smoking history. And the sources mentioned a newer area too, liquid biopsies.
Oh yeah, that sounded futuristic. Blood tests for cancer.
Essentially, yes. Analyzing blood or other fluids for tiny bits of tumor DNA or cancer cells. It's a rapidly developing field for detection and monitoring.
Cool. So prevent if you can, screen to catch it early. But what if someone is diagnosed? What are the main treatments now?
There's a range of treatments, often used in combination. Surgery to remove the tumor is common. Chemotherapy uses drugs to kill rapidly dividing cells. Radiation therapy uses high-energy rays to target and kill cancer cells.
The big three.
Traditionally, yes. Yeah. But now we also have targeted therapies, which are drugs designed to attack specific molecules involved in the cancer's growth. And a really exciting area is immunotherapy.
Helping your own body fight it.
Exactly. Unleashing the patient's own immune system to recognize and attack the cancer cells. This includes checkpoint inhibitors, CAR T-cell therapy, therapeutic antibodies, even cancer vaccines designed to treat existing cancer.
Sounds like the options are getting way more sophisticated.
They really are. And research is ongoing. The sources mention things like CRISPR gene editing and mRNA vaccine technology potentially being adapted for cancer treatment. Clinical trials are always underway, testing new approaches.
So there's constant progress. That's good to hear. The articles also mention supportive care. What falls under that?
That's about managing side effects and improving quality of life during and after treatment. It can include nutritional support, psychological counseling, exercise programs, pain management, even things like acupuncture or traditional Chinese medicine for symptom relief.
But it's supportive, right? Not a replacement for the main stuff.
Absolutely crucial point. Complementary therapies can help people feel better and cope, but they should always be used alongside standard medical care like surgery, chemo, or radiation, never instead of it.
Right. Don't ditch your oncologist for essential oils.
Precisely. And that leads to the other big disclaimer. Everything we've talked about is general information. Everyone's situation is unique.
Yeah, you absolutely have to work with your own doctors, your medical team, for a plan that's right for you. This isn't medical advice.
Exactly. Always talk to your healthcare providers.
You know, this whole conversation, it just makes you realize how complex our bodies are. It's amazing. Anything works correctly most of the time. It kind of reminds me of trying to assemble IKEA furniture. Yeah. So many little parts. And if one thing's off.
That's one way to look at it. It is incredibly intricate. But the progress in understanding it all has been phenomenal.
Truly. Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, I guess that philosophical question is still lingering for me. If our cells do have this basic fundamental drive to survive, maybe even something we could call a will, and cancer is that drive going totally off the rails, what does that tell us about life itself? Does thinking about it that way change how we should approach fighting diseases like cancer?
It's a deep question, isn't it? It pushes us to think beyond just the mechanics and consider the very nature of biological persistence. Definitely something to ponder.
For sure. Well, that's our time for this deep dive. Huge thanks for tuning in while we wrestled with cancer, from cells to philosophy.
It's a really thought-provoking discussion. Thanks for joining us.
So, key takeaways. Cancer. Super complex. Affects animals too, not just us. Understanding it means looking at the biology, the genetics, but maybe also these bigger questions about survival. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and always rely on trusted medical sources and your own doctor.
Well said.
And hey, before we go, got to give a shout out to our old pal, Micky. Seriously, you need to check out his YouTube channel. It's called Mickytolife. He does these awesome travel vlogs, which are great, but he also does these hilarious whiskey and other alcohol unboxing. Plus, he makes his own original music. It's a great channel. Mickytolife on YouTube. Go find it.
Sounds like fun. I'll check it out.
All right, everyone. That's it from us here on The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.
Until then, take care.